remind you that Ranga has divided the book Synthesis of Yoga into mainly 4 parts. There is an introduction where he explains what is yoga and what is the 4 things necessary for yoga. Remember? First is Shastra, then Utsaha, your own enthusiasm, then the Guru, and then finally time. You must give time, you must not be impatient. That is the introduction. And then he starts, first he deals with Karma Yoga, they finished that. Now he is dealing with the Jnana Yoga as applicable in the integral yoga. Then afterwards there will be a small section on the love of the Bhakti Yoga. Finally, the integral perfection. So your own integral yoga. So today we have to read the object of spiritual knowledge. So Pallavi, you will start?
Yes, Rangada.
Go ahead. The object of
The object of spiritual knowledge is the supreme, the divine, the infinite and absolute. This supreme has its relations to our individual being and its relations to the universe, and it transcends both the soul and the universe. Neither the universe nor the individual are what they seem to be, for the report of them which our mind and our senses give us is so long as they are unenlightened by a faculty of higher supramental and suprasensuous knowledge, a false report, an imperfect construction, an attenuated and erroneous figure. And yet, that which the universe and the individual seem to be is still a figure of what they really are, a figure that points beyond itself to the reality behind it. Truth proceeds by a correction of the values of our mind and senses. Truth proceeds by the correction of the values our mind and senses give us, and first by the action of a higher intelligence that enlightens and sets right as far as may be the conclusions of the ignorant sense mind and limited physical intelligence. That is the method of all human knowledge and science. But beyond it, there is a knowledge, a truth consciousness that exceeds our intellect and brings us into the true light of which it is a refracted ray. There, the abstract terms of the pure reason and the constructions of the mind disappear or are converted into concrete soul vision and the tremendous actuality of spiritual experience. This knowledge can turn away to the absolute eternal and lose vision of the soul and the universe, but it can too see this existence from that eternal. When that is done, we find that the ignorance of the mind and the senses and all the apparent futilities of human life were not a useless excursion of the conscious being, an odious blunder. Here they were planned as a rough ground for the self-expression of the soul that comes from the infinite, a material foundation for its self-unfolding and self-possessing in the terms of the universe. It is true that in themselves they and all that is here have no significance, and to build separate significance for them is to live in an illusion, Maya. But they have a supreme significance in the supreme, an absolute power in the absolute, and it is that assigns to them and refers to that truth their present relative values. This is the all-uniting experience that is the foundation of the deepest integral and most intimate self-knowledge and world knowledge.
Quite a big para and interesting. So he is beginning with very, very sensible. He is telling you what is the object of spiritual knowledge. So, which is supreme, the divine, the infinite and absolute. It seems so obvious, but sometimes we get confused with spiritual knowledge. When someone will ask you what is spiritual knowledge, you may not be able to answer correctly. So, here he is telling you very, very categorically, it is to know God. Okay? When he doesn't use the word God here, he is talking about the supreme, the divine, the infinite and absolute. Those who that Jnana Yoga, they go to the infinite and absolute, the supreme, the divine. He is using these words and not using God because God is the personal aspect of the divine. But here all these four words he is using refer to the spiritual knowledge, which is that does not take the personal aspect of the divine into account. That is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga goes to the personal aspect of the divine. A person with whom you can exchange, talk, have relations. So, the object of spiritual knowledge is the supreme, the divine, the infinite and absolute. All are impersonal aspects. Okay? This supreme has its relations to our individual being and its relation to the universe, and it transcends both soul and universe. Again, the idea of the transcendent, the highest, which is devoid of universe and individual. The transcendent is God looking into himself and not at all interested in the universe or the individual. He is all in himself. So if they use the words, the divine in himself, not in the universe. That's the. But here Srimad is saying this supreme has its relations to the individual being, okay, and that is the individual, and its relations to the universe, and it transcends both soul and universe. So you have three aspects of the divine: the transcendent, the cosmic, and the individual, and it transcends both soul and universe. Neither. So the object of spiritual knowledge in Jnana Yoga is to get to the impersonal aspect of the divine, devoid of the universe and the individual. Only in Jnana Yoga, neither the universe nor the individual are what they seem to be. He is saying that the universe that you are seeing and the individual that you understand what you are is not really what they seem to be. Therefore, the path of knowledge rejects them. There is some justification for it. Okay? Not in the integral yoga, but some justification for those who are following the path of Jnana Yoga. Buddhists also say there is no God. Okay? There are many others also who say there is no God. That's your imagination. Even in modern times also, many so-called gurus, they also say that there is no God. It's your own mental construction. So this is the path of knowledge. Neither the universe nor the individual are what they seem to be. Therefore, why bother about it? For the report of them, which our mind and our senses give us, so long as they are unenlightened by a faculty of higher supramental and suprasensual knowledge, is a false report, an imperfect construction, an attenuated and erroneous story. What Sendra is saying in this long sentence is, if you are seeing the physical world and yourself and others, individuals, through your senses, then you are not getting a right report. But if your senses and your mind is helped by a supramental force, supramental not in the sense of gnosis, but above the mind, even in the spiritual fields, it can be. Sendra sometimes uses the word supramental in the sense of supramental. In other words, more than the mind, above the mind. It would include even the spiritual planes of consciousness. There the false report of the senses disappears and you start seeing something else. Okay. We know now that when you go to the lowest level of the spiritual planes, the higher mind, you start seeing the oneness of things which you don't see in the lower hemisphere of the body-mind life. You don't see. You see only division. You see many, many different things and you think that they are really separate. They are not separate. Okay? That's what Sendra is saying. It's a false report. An imperfect construction. Not the word construction. Why? Because your senses are giving you data from the physical world through your five senses. The eye is giving you a picture. It's a construction. It's not a reality. It's a construction. The reality would be the thing in itself if you can see it without the eye. Okay? without the ears, without the senses. Then it would be the real, direct knowledge, without senses. So here, if you see through senses, it's an imperfect construction. And note interestingly, this is one saying that the eye of a man, of a cat, of a dog, of an eagle, of all the other animals are all built on different scales. Okay. Yesterday I received a video where they are saying how the animals, how far they can see. Man can see up to 500 meters. The eagle can see up to 3-4 kilometers. Okay. So the snake can see only up to 3-4 meters. So these are obviously, they are all imperfect constructions. Okay, and attenuated and erroneous. The word attenuated means made less. Okay? Made less. So what you are seeing, some element of truth is there in it. Okay? When I am seeing an animal, some element of truth in it. The form, there is some truth of the form, but that form is transient, temporal. It's not the reality. Okay? So that's what he's saying. And attenuated and erroneous. That is how the Jnana Yoga thinks about it. Jnana Yoga thinks that the physical world is a false report and therefore not worth pursuing. Not Sriyamdava, Jnana Yoga. Therefore they reject it. And yet, that which universe and the individual seem to be is still a figure of what they really are. A figure that points beyond itself to the reality behind it. So in other words, some amount of truth is there. It's like a photograph, which is not really absolutely, a photograph gives you only the outer form. But in a photograph, you may not be able to see the human beings' thoughts and emotions. Therefore, it's a very attenuated, very reduced image. So there is some truth, but not the whole truth at all. And yet that which universe and individuals seem to be is still, simply saying there is some truth, is still a figure of what they really are. But it's a figure that points beyond itself to the reality behind it. It's like a out of focus picture or a picture which is broken up. In the earlier days, when they reinvented the TV, the image used to be black and white and also unclear. And slowly, improvements came, and now you have a very clear colored picture. And even that, there is high definition and low definition. So, it is more and more well defined. It is still a good picture, but it's only a picture. It's not the reality. So, and yet that which the universe and the individual seem to be is still a figure of what they really are, a figure that points beyond itself to the reality behind it. Truth proceeds by a correction of the values of mind and senses give us. The mind and the senses are giving you a value. It has got some value for the level at which you are. Certainly, at the level at which you are, it gives you a picture which is valid for you. But truth is something which you go on using different. It's like a man in life who starts poor, but slowly, his economic condition becomes better and better. Here the spiritual condition of the human beings becomes better and better, and you come to know truth more and more. First of all, the animal knows very little, then man knows a little more, the yogi knows even a little more, and finally the man who reaches the supermind will have truth in whole, integral truth he will have. The truth proceeds by correction of the values of mind and senses give us, and by sense give us, and first by the action of a higher intelligence. Higher intelligence, very clearly, using the words higher intelligence, the what is it called? The first level of the spiritual planes of consciousness? Higher mind. The word is not coming to me. Okay? The higher mind. This is the higher mind. There are four, huh? Beginning from the top, you have overmind, then you have intuition, then you have element mind, and you have the higher mind. I think he calls it the higher mind. That's what he means by higher intelligence, not the normal intelligence. Higher intelligence is in the spiritual planes, not in our side. That enlightens and sets right, as far as may be, the conclusions of the ignorant sense mind. So sense mind is the manas, and the limited physical intelligence. The physical intelligence is same, it's the sense mind, and he calls it the physical mind. The physical mind is the one that gives interpretation of the senses. So sense mind and limited physical intelligence is the same thing. That is the method of all human knowledge and science. All human knowledge and science, we are using only our senses, and the mind purifies that knowledge to a certain extent. Okay? Just like we think that the sun is rising, but mind comes in, science uses mind also more and more, and tells you that the sun is not moving, it's the earth that is moving. Your sense knowledge is wrong. Okay? So intelligence corrects that sense knowledge. So that is the method of all human knowledge and science. But beyond it, there is a knowledge, a truth consciousness. When Ranga uses the word truth consciousness, you know that he is meaning the supermind. That exceeds our intellect and brings us into the true light of which is a refracted ray. So, the truth consciousness exceeds our intellect and brings us into the true light of which is a refracted ray. Our intelligence, our intellect is only a refracted ray, a less, made less, and a weak reduction. A reduced, weak light is our mind, a refracted ray. There, the abstract terms of the pure reason and the constructions of the mind disappear. You don't need your mind anymore to construct the truth. See, whenever you try to understand something, your mind is, the machinery of the mind starts working, huh? And you make a picture to yourself. Then you say, yes, I understand. When the picture is not clear, then you say, I don't understand. So, that construction of the mind disappears. Why? Because you are seeing the reality. You are not using your senses which distort. You are using instruments of knowledge which are far above the senses and the mind. And they are intuition, identity, vision, okay? This is the direct vision of the truth. So these are the things you use in the spiritual place. But beyond it, there is a knowledge, a truth consciousness that exceeds our intellect and brings us into the true light of which it is reflected. There means at this supramental level, the abstract terms about pure reason in the construction of mind disappear or are converted into concrete soul vision and tremendous actuality of spiritual experience. You don't need mind, which is a very, very defective instrument. No, there is no thought. Thought doesn't exist in the higher planes of consciousness. This knowledge can turn away to the absolute eternal and lose vision of the soul and the universe. There you are. What he said earlier, now he is saying openly. He is saying that the Jnana Yoga path goes to the absolute eternal and doesn't care, lose vision of soul and universe. Just like the Buddhists. They say there is nothing, neither the universe nor the individual. But it can too see this existence from the eternal. So that's not the only conclusion of spirituality. If you go to the supramental, you have the right to disappear into the absolute nihil like the Buddhists. But you can also, from there, look at the universe. And that is Srenga's point of view. That you look at the universe and you see that it has got some meaning, not the meaning that you saw when you were in the ignorance, but another meaning at all. Okay, another meaning. It is the manifestation of the divine in the lowest level of the manifestation. That is the purpose. And there in the manifestation to bring the divine light. That is the purpose of the creation of the manifestation. The world is created not uselessly, which the Buddhists and the Jnana Yogis, they think that it's useless. It's a construction, it is useless. But when it is created by the divine, how can it be useless? So that's what Srenga uncovers. And what is its use? A slow development and realization of the divine, even in the physical world. This knowledge can turn away to the absolute eternal and lose vision of the soul and universe. But it need not do that necessarily. But it can too see this existence from that eternal. You can make a connection with it. Rejection is not necessary. When that is done, we find that the ignorance of the mind and the senses and all the apparent futilities of human life were not a useless excursion of the conscious being and ought to blunder. This is what the Buddhists and the Jnana Yogis are saying. The world has no significance at all. It's a useless creation. But now you see, when from the supramental level, you see that it is not a useless creation. Here means in the physical world, they were planned as a rough ground for the self-expression of the soul that comes from the intellect, a material foundation for its self-unfolding and self-possessing in the terms of the universe. So when you go to supramental level, you understand that the world is created and it has a purpose. And what is that purpose? It is slowly revealing itself in the world itself. It's self-unfolding, self-possessing. You must get the divine not at the highest level only, but you must get the divine also at the lowest level. That is the purpose of creation of the universe and the individual. And that is exactly what the aim in integral yoga is. We don't reject the physical world. Self-unfolding and self-possessing in the terms of the universe. It is true that in themselves, they and all that is here means in the physical world, have no significance. And to build separate significance of them is to live in an illusion. Those who think that the physical world is the only reality and there is nothing else needed, like science thinks, that is an illusion. That's not true. The world has got a value only when you accept the divine. The world by itself, like the materialist thinks, that is absolutely an illusion. That the world is not sufficient in itself. It is meaningful only in terms of the divine. It's not a Maya. But if you think it's the only thing that exists, it's a Maya. But they have a supreme significance in the supreme. Supreme significance in the supreme. So the word supreme significance is used as a normal adjective. And in the supreme, when he's saying with an escape, he means the divine. An absolute power in the absolute. And it is that assigns, against Renga's style of prose, and it is that assigns to them and refers to that truth in their present relative values. This is the all-uniting experience that is the foundation of the deepest integral and most intimate self-knowledge in the world. Now he is bringing the word in integral knowledge. Jnana Yoga may reject the physical world, but the integral knowledge going right up to the supramental does not reject the physical world and finds a meaning in the world. Not only in the world but also in the individual. So, deepest integral, most intimate self-knowledge and world knowledge. You know yourself and you understand the value of the world also. We go to the next paragraph. In relation to the individual. So, who will read today? either Yasmin or Archana who have not read for a long time. So, Archana, if you have the text. Yeah. So, Yasmin, you have the text?
Yes, I can read if you wish.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. I thought either of you, any one of you could, but you can read.
In relation to the individual, the supreme is our own true and highest self, that which ultimately we are in our essence, that of which we are in our manifested nature, a spiritual knowledge, moved to arrive at the true self in us, must reject, as the traditional way of knowledge rejects, all misleading appearances. It must discover that the body is not our self, our foundation of existence. It is a sensible form of the infinite, the experience of matter as the world's sole foundation, and the physical brain and nerves and cells and molecules as the one truth of all things in us. The ponderous, inadequate basis of materialism is a delusion, a half view taken for the whole. The dark bottom or shadow of things, misconceived as the luminous substance, the effective figure of zero for the integral. The materialistic idea mistakes a creation for the creative power, a means of expression for that which is expressed and expressive. Matter and our physical brain and nerves and body are the field and foundations for one action of a vital force that serves to connect the self with the form of its works and maintains them by its direct dynamics. The material movements are an exterior notation by which the soul represents its perceptions of certain truths of the infinite and makes them effective in the terms of substance. These things are a language, a notation, a hieroglyphic, a system of symbols, not themselves, the deepest true sense of the things they intimate.
Okay, so this para, so you have to be very, very careful. He is telling you, we'll go through each word and we'll see his language, what it means, okay? In relation to the individual, so he has told you that if you go to supramental level, the individual also is meaningful and the universe also is meaningful. So, in relation to the individual, the supreme is our true and highest self. Still he is using words like supreme, which are impossible. In relation to the individual, the supreme is our true and highest self. That which ultimately we are in our essence. The essence is the soul of man. Okay, not the body mind. Because body mind life disappears. That which does not disappear forever is the essence, and that's your soul. That of which we are in our manifested nature. Our manifested nature is the body mind life. And then we are actually, our essence has come down, and it comes down into manifested nature in your body mind. Now, be very careful. A spiritual knowledge, I would have added, if I was writing, I would have added, okay, for clarity's sake, because we are so ignorant, not supramental knowledge. Okay? A spiritual knowledge only. The rest of what he is saying applies only to spiritual knowledge, not supramental knowledge. A spiritual knowledge, moved to arrive at the true self in us, okay, must reject, as the traditional way of knowledge rejects, all misleading appearances. So very clear, he is even using the word must reject. Okay. It's very natural for the man who reaches the self, the higher mind, to reject the physical world because it's only a images. That's what happened to Srilanka. In Baroda, when Lele told him silence your mind, he silenced it in 1 day. And in 3 days it was permanent. Okay? Of course, afterwards he had to struggle a lot to make it absolutely permanent at the lowest level. But he rejected it. He didn't reject. He was very paid, but he saw that the physical world is only only images, only pictures. They are not the reality at all. They are only the outlines. The spiritual knowledge moved to arrive at the true self with us must reject, as the traditional way of knowledge rejects, all misleading appearances. It must discover that the body is not ourself, our foundational existence. It is not ourself. It is the sensible form of the infinite. What sensible here means related to sense, okay? Not sensible. So the word sensible can have several meanings. The first meaning is, yeah, we are a very sensible fellow, okay? Not in that sense. Sensible form means related to sense. It's a sensible form of the infinite. What? The embodiment life, the lower nature. The experience of matter as the world's sole foundation and the physical brain and nerves and cells and molecules as the one truth of all things in us, the ponderous, inadequate basis of materialism is a delusion, a half view taken for the whole, the dark bottom or shadow of things misconceived as a luminous substance, the effective figure of zero for the integer. Okay. So, the huge sentence means only that when the material man is looking at the physical universe and thinking it to be a reality, he is completely mistaken. It's a delusion. The reality is that which is beyond the material world. And one thing, the ponderous, inadequate basis of materialism. Look at the words ponderous, heavy weight, is a delusion. A half view taken from the whole, the dark bottom or shadow of things, misconceived as a luminous substance, or shadow of things, misconceived as a luminous substance, the effective figure of zero or the integer. The integer is a full number, not a fraction. But the inconscient, the material matter is a zero. It is a starting point. The materialist idea mistakes a creation for the creative power. Now, what exactly does it mean by that? We'll have a look. Okay? Matter is creating. For the materialist, the matter is creating life. And then from life comes out mind. Therefore, you think, or rather the materialist thinks, that the matter is the creative power. Matter is the source of all creation. But actually, from the spiritual point of view, this matter is not a creative power. It's a creation. It has been created by the divine to appear to pretend to be the creative power. It is true that from matter comes out life and comes out mind. But it is not matter that is creating. It is the supreme involved in matter that is created. Okay, that's what it means. The materialist idea mistakes creation for the creative power, a means of expression for that, take care, okay, for that which is expressed and expresses. Okay? Matter is nothing but an expression of that which is expressive and expressive. It's expressed and expressed. Matter and our physical brain and nerves and body are the field and the foundation for one action of a vital force that serves to connect the self with the form of its works and maintains them by its direct dynamics. Look at the sentence and see what it means. Matter and the physical brain and nerves and body, that means at the lowest level, are the field and foundation for only one action. You can add the word only. For only one action of the vital force that serves to connect the self with the form of its works. Which is the form of its works? The world. And maintains them by its direct dynamics. So, the self is creating the world and maintains it by its own power. That's what it is, the vital force. And that vital force is creating the world and maintaining it, but that's only one of its actions. It's got many, many other functions. The maintenance of the world is a very minor matter for the Shakti. The material movements are an exterior notation by which the soul represents its perceptions of certain truths of the infinite and makes them effective in terms of substance. Substance with an S cap. Matter is substance. The vital substance is also substance. The mental substance also is substance. Even the divine is substance, but very, 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 very subtle. So that's why he uses 3 words for substance. He uses the first word, existence. That's the highest substance, which is the subtlest. That's the divine. Then the lower levels, overmind, higher mind, intuitive mind, all these minds, he uses the word substance. But matter is very subtle. Then finally he comes down to the grossest of substance, that is matter. So, and makes them effective in the terms of substance. So whatever is there at the highest level, he is trying to bring them down into the lowest level. That's what it means. These things in the material world are a language, a notation, a hieroglyph. The hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphs are the signs in the Egyptian culture. They use all sorts of signs which represent things. The hieroglyph. It is exactly like signs, symbols, like a traffic light. Okay? A traffic light is a hieroglyph. It is not just red light. There is a meaning behind it. And that meaning is, don't proceed further. So it's only itself. It represents something, a deeper truth. The red light means you have to see behind the red light only and understand that it's telling you not to proceed further. And the green light says you can proceed further. So these are the hieroglyphs. Okay? They are the symbols. A system of symbols. Everything in the physical world is like that. There is a truth behind which you have to see. Not themselves, the deepest truth, truest sense of the things, they intimate. So they are a form of that which is the eternal. All these things in the physical world are forms. They represent something. And that's a very interesting thing because that's exactly what this principle Mother is using for giving significance to the flowers. So when we see a flower, it's only a form. But the form behind is something much more than that. Just like a traffic light. It's not just a red light. A red light is a flower, but the red light is telling you, do this, do that. So each flower also represents something behind and that is exactly what Mother finds out from the higher levels and gives it the true meaning. So just as every flower has got a meaning, a true meaning, everything in the physical world, all forms, also have true meanings. That's exactly what he's saying in the last section. These things are a language, a notation, a hieroglyphic, a system of symbols, not themselves the deepest truth and sense of things into it. Okay? So we have only 2 minutes left, and let's see how big the next para is not very big. We can read it. Archana, if you have the text, you can read. If it is not too late for you. I think she is not there. So, Shilpa, would you like to read?
No, Ranga, I'll read. My connection only work. I don't know when it doesn't and when it comes up.
Achha, okay. So then, maybe we can
hear me, Ranga. Can you hear me?
Achha, this connection I think is going on and on. Looks like that. Okay, now we'll read this next time. Okay. Neither is the life ourselves. So first she has dealt with matter. Now he is talking about life. So we'll take it up next time. It is already 8:40. Okay. So Jishnu, it will take some time to read it, so we'll keep it for next time. So, au revoir everybody. Have a nice day.
Au revoir Rangada. Merci beaucoup. Bonne journée.
Merci beaucoup.
Same to everybody. Au revoir.
Thank you, Rangada.
And have a nice
Au revoir, Rangada. Thank you, Rangada.